All right. So I did find a little bit more over the weekend and also today of how to deal with accessing an HTML document, be able to parse it, pick out certain parts, from App Inventor. As it turns out, it was kind of adventurous, okay, because some of the approaches, that would make it so easy to work with, was not actually workable.
Yeah, I tried to read through some of those, and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. So I just spent my time. I wrote a function in JavaScript, and I
Mm-hmm.
figured I would just sit with you and then be like, okay, how do I make this function work? And
So what we'll do instead is to use the lecture time, unless there are other burning questions. I'll be happy to answer other burning questions as well. But this is what I plan to use today's uh, lecture time to kind of process, just in case anyone else has the need to grab certain content from the web page of another URL. Okay, because this is kind of like what you do not pay for the API, then you can use this method, right? If you pay for the API, then you can use the API method, which usually cost money and whatnot. But this is the other way to do it. Okay, so we'll get started here. Yep. Yes, I do. Yep. I forgot again. I forgot again on last Thursday, and I was talking about some topic in assembly programming. It was kind of involved, and at the end of the class, one student said, "You did record all of that, right?" And I flipped to OBS, and nope, I did not. Yeah, but that class is not quite as interactive with this class. I mean, the programming interface is all text based. So that one, if I gave them the actual files, that as the result of working on everything. So that usually suffices. With this class, because there's a lot of um, GUI stuff going on, graphical user interface and whatnot, going on, it's not as easy to convey the same thing. All right, so what we'll do is we'll start a new project. Okay, at some point I have to go trim my projects down, but we'll start this new project and we'll call this decode HTML. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit complex. So we'll use a button to basically trigger the operation. Okay, so we'll just label the button as um, start. Okay, so this will start the operation. So what we'll use would be two components that you would think, do we really need both of them? One is the web viewer, and then we go to connectivity, and we'll grab a view component. So we'll need both of them, okay? So if you remember from earlier discussions, a web viewer allows the end user to interact with whatever is displayed inside the web viewer, which is typically an HTML document, whereas a web component does not. Okay, a web component is completely, invisible, and all it does is to allow your program to directly communicate with another website without the user to click on anything. Okay, so it's programmatically going to another website and do stuff. Okay, so what we'll do is
web component or
a web component as opposed to a web viewer component. So it's confusing because they are both web, right? But one is programmatically useful, and the other one is allows the user to interact. Okay, so the reason why we need both of them is HTML or JavaScript running inside HTML does not allow a document to open a connection to another URL that is not of the same domain for security purposes.
say that again.
Okay, so when you're inside an HTML document, doesn't matter what browser you're using. Um, there's a call called XML get request or get XML HTTP request or something like that. Okay, so you can actually make a request to another URL and say, okay, I need that document over there from inside the JavaScript of a particular HTML document. That is allowed, but the requirement is wherever you're going to grab your document has to be of the same domain as the original document. So that kind of throws a wrench when you need to go to recipe.com, right, from your cell phone. Because from your cell phone, the HTML document has a local address, it's file dot slash 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 blah blah blah. but it's going to http://recipe.com. So the domain has changed. And HTML, JavaScript does not let you do it for security reasons. Yes?
Do you need permission when you grab stuff from other websites?
Copyright wise, yes.
Oh,
But technically, no. So when you're talking about URL and HTTP request, the answer is no. But when you are asking, can we use that content, with regard to copyright, then the answer is yes. Okay, so I'm only showing you the technical technique. You guys have to kind of work out the copyright, issue with whatever website you're trying to grab stuff from. I'm legally not liable for any type of legal consequences you might have.
Everything that things are not, they don't fall.
well, you never know.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'm going to use the web component to point to some place that I'm familiar with. Okay, the Power Server. So the Power Server has got some interesting stuff like a table, blah blah blah. So it's got some stuff here. And this is the other thing you can also do. If you're doing something like this, Chrome and Firefox has really powerful built-in tools to help you with this type of task. Like in Chrome, you can go to right-click on whatever page you're looking at, and then you can look at either inspect or page source. Inspect is a lot more useful because in inspect you can actually go to a particular section to find out where is the stuff that you want. Okay, so let's say I need to access the class list of a particular class. So I know it's within this table here. So I click on this, and it's within this T body, which is table body. And then I look through this stuff, and I can now see the rows of the table that I need to access. Unfortunately, all the classes are combined into one single huge table. So you can see how the different classes are combined. But this TR, which is a row in a table, spans across multiple columns. So it's a divider, between the classes. So I can look into this, and it has got a TD, which is an element inside the table, a column. And inside here we have the name of the professor. So this allows you to step-by-step inspect a document so that you can zero into the section that you want, and then you know the structure of that thing. So are we kind of doing okay with this? Okay. So you can also see that this particular element is a TD which by tag name, but it also has a class of teacher. So that's going to be helpful later on for us because we can search by tag, which is TD. We can also search by class, which gives me an array of all the elements that has a class of teacher. So that makes it easier for me to find all the professors. So are we kind of doing okay with the concepts? So this is stuff that you need to do regardless of whether you're trying to, steal the content of a website, from wherever. Okay, you still have to analyze the structure of the HTML document. Okay. So once this part is done, then I go back to App Inventor, and since I am going to use this only as a test program, so I'm going to fix the URL to just one place. So I'm going to fix the URL to power.arc.losreals.edu, which basically is the URL to the page that we just saw, which is here, because I'm only using that as an example. Okay. Response file name, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to take the response as one string. It's going to be a one big string, but it's just a string. So I'm not going to specify a file name here. So, and also I'm not going to check save response. Cookies are not really useful in this case. This particular website does not need to use cookies. So depending on, if you're using recipe.com, you can, kind of, if it relies on cookies to maintain a session, then you have to turn on allow cookies so that um, a sequence of requests can basically be from the same session.
Why would you need cookies?
Huh?
Why, why does the website need cookies?
It needs cookies to keep track of what we call a session. So this way, let's say you're going to Amazon, okay, and you browse through some items. You say, okay, I want to buy this, okay. So you put it into your basket. that connection to the web to Amazon is completely independent to the next one, where you say, okay, I want to go to my shopping cart and pay for it. Okay, but those two connections really have nothing to do with each other as far as Amazon is concerned. So it cannot associate that the shopping cart of this particular connection has to do with, oh, I want to go to my shopping cart in this particular connection. Those two are completely independent um, connections as far as the server and the clients are concerned. So the only thing that allows Amazon to associate, oh, I want to pay for whatever is in my cart and the shopping cart that you updated earlier is the cookie. So it has what we call a session cookie that uniquely identifies what we call a session, which most people do not need to know because most people just look at it as, oh, okay, I sign in, okay, I put stuff into my basket, I browse around, and now I'm made ready to pay for it. Most people think, okay, it's just natural that these things are connected. But as far as HTTP connections are concerned, they are not naturally connected. And a session cookie is what makes it possible. So the first time you sign in, what Amazon does is it will send a cookie to your browser, and then that cookie has a long ID, has a lot of security features, and it's stored on your computer. When you connect to Amazon for all the subsequent connections, before you sign out, the connection will start with, oh, I got this cookie from you earlier, and then that cookie is telling Amazon and say, oh, I see. So this cookie identifies that you are tech and you signed it already, and this is your shopping cart, and these are the items in your cart, da 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 da. So it's an association, with all of that stuff that you did earlier with a website. So that's why cookies are really, really useful in web
So Groupon
stuff.
uses cookies.
Huh?
Groupons.
Yeah, Groupon, just about anything. Yep. Yeah, they all want to send you cookies so that they can track what you do. Yep. All right, so we got all the components now. We can now go to blocks. So we can do some simple stuff first. So the simple stuff is just go into the button and handle the click event here. And all we want to do is for the web component to um, get the request. Okay, and that's all it's going to do. So get is once again, what we call an asynchronous call, which basically means it comes back right away after the request is sent. Okay, so when it comes back, it doesn't mean it has the results. Okay, it simply means the request is transmitted to the URL or the web server that you identify. But the web server can take another 2 minutes, okay, to come back with a reply. Okay, but this comes back right away. So if you want to change the background color or do something, you can do it right away before you get the request back. So now the other thing we have to do is to go to one of the event handlers here, and we say get got text. Okay, because what this means, when we get this event is the server responded. Okay, now sometimes you get a response code that is an error, like 404 page not found or something like that. Return type tells you what kind of a document you're getting back, and then response content is the actual content of the document. Okay, URL is the actual URL that you sent a little bit earlier, the requested URL. So the reason why you have to, sometimes why you might need to know the URL is you have the same kind of get, and you change the URL from one to another. So now, there's only one response or there's only one event when you get a response back. So the URL is here to help you identify, okay, so which URL am I processing? Okay, because you might need a different logic to process that. In this very really simple example, it's not a concern. Okay, I only got one URL and know it's there, so response code is not useful. I know it's HTML, so that's why I also do not need to know what kind of response type it is. So I just need to process the response content in this case. Okay, all right. So what we'll do is there's not much to do here except for one thing. Okay, so GotText is going to take response content and use it to set the web viewer string of the web viewer. Okay, I know it's kind of a long way to say it, but that's basically what it is. So we'll set the web viewer string to response content from the URL request. Okay, so what this is doing is we're setting up the content to send it into the JavaScript inside the web view component so that the JavaScript has a chance to process it. So this is just for setting up everything. And then the next thing we need to do is to refresh the web viewer component. So we have to go to the call here. We can go say go home. Okay. Wherever home is set to is fine. Okay. We'll write our own page, as our home. Okay. And once it has gotten home, it will eventually run whatever JavaScript is contained there, and then the web view string will eventually get changed, and that's going to trigger this thing to happen. Okay, so it's going to respond back with a value. So once again, we basically have a chain of asynchronous calls and responses. Okay, the first one is this thing here. Okay, it calls. You click the button, it will send a request. But before the reply is back, guess what? You can do all kinds of other stuff. Okay, so one thing you can do in this kind of case, is to gray out the button until it is ready for another request. Because otherwise, if the end user clicks the button again before the request is back, then it will send a second request out. So things will now get pretty confusing because then you will get to get text. Okay. So one thing you can potentially do is to go here and then you go to button and then you set the enable of the button to false, which it will still be displayed on the screen. It's just going to be grayed out. So you go to set enabled to false over here. And then we'll re-enable it when it's time. Okay. So when we get the text back, now we can set it back to true. So we'll duplicate this one and say, okay, when we get the response back, when the request is done, then we can re-enable the button at this point. All right. So this is kind of as far as I can get without actually writing any code in an HTML document. So now I have to switch gear and start to write some document in HTML to do the processing. Okay. So in case you're looking for the kind of text description of what we need to do, it's kind of all described here. So we are now done with up to this part here, and it's time to get started with this part here. So now we have to write the HTML document to do the actual processing. So I'm going to use this to write the document here. So we'll say process dom.html. That's just the name of the document that I have. So we'll write it just kind of like a normal HTML document, and you don't need everything else, everything here. You definitely need an onload, and I'll specify what it does. Okay. So we'll need an onload in the body, and then we have script, and then /script to end that tag. So within script and end script or /script, we can write the actual JavaScript here. There will be two portions. The first portion is to set. This is from App Inventor's own sample code. So the first thing they did was to specify a variable called HTML to process, and it's getting it from window.appinventor.get web viewer string. So what this is doing is it is whatever I set earlier is going to be now in HTML to process. Okay, that's going to be the source code, the HTML actual source code that I got from the web component, okay, to process. So we'll put it into this variable, and then I now write a function called process request which will be called automatically when the body is fully loaded. Okay, so the ordering is always going to be HTML to process will get this value, and then the subroutine called process request is going to be called next. Okay, and I'm just borrowing this from the App Inventor guide because they got some code also included as examples. So this is where we need to do all the actual processing. Okay, so to do all the actual processing, we look up DOM parser, DOMPARSER, and here's the description of how to do that. So we have to first create one by using new DOM parser. Okay. So we say var DOM parser. I'll just call it parser equals to new DOM parser. DOM parser. There we go. So now we have a parser object. So with the parser object, the document that you can get back is simply to say, parser dot parse from string, and that string is going to be the web viewer string that we got back a little bit earlier. And if you scroll through this document, it also shows you if you know what you're processing is an HTML document, you can tell the function call that it is an HTML document using this particular form where you specifically say, yep, I know it is text, it's not anything else, and it is HTML. So we're going to use this form here. So switch back to, oops, not this, that one here. So now we'll say the document, which I will use the local variable DOM to represent it, is parser dot, what again? Parse from string, parse from string. And then we'll give it the variable that we had earlier, that we had set earlier, which is HTML2 process. And then we'll also specify this is in text form and it is HTML like so. So when this is done, okay, when DOM equals blah, blah, blah is done, then DOM is going to be an object, representing the document that you sent in from outside of the engine, okay? The next thing now we can do is to do whatever processing you want, okay? Or you can choose to return the DOM as a JSON representation. So you can send it back to App Inventor, and then App Inventor can then decode it back into a list, and then you can do all the picking and choosing and searching in App Inventor. So that's up to you, how you want to do it. But what I'll do is I'm going to make it a little bit more manageable. So I will try to only look for teachers, okay? So I'll say teachers is DOM dot get.
So DOM, yeah, okay. So DOM is the entire DOM. Like you're
Yep.
getting everything in there.
Yep.
So you can do teacher, any class, any ID, and
Yep.
then next. So
Yep.
I wrote a bunch of code for no reason. Is that what you're telling me?
I have no idea how much you have done already.
I'm able to like go to Epicurious, look at it, pull the whole recipe list, and break it up into a new array for each line item
Okay, so you have done most of the code already.
for grabbing the recipe list, and then I just need to get it into App Inventor, and then I think I'm gonna cut it off at making modifications to the amounts, and I also cleaning up the recipe list because they have things like
Yeah,
one box parentheses 16 ounces. So I'm cutting out anything in parentheses. I'm cutting out all the
I see. So you got some.
punctuation,
Okay. Did you do all that in JavaScript or did you do it in?
all JavaScript.
Okay, yeah, it makes more sense to do all that stuff in JavaScript.
Yeah.
Not that you cannot do it in App Inventor, but it's going to be painful.
Well, the idea was to do it all in JavaScript and just send only the recipe items out in
Yeah.
the list, and then I can add to it when I
Okay.
see it in App Inventor. I'm gonna need your help with that probably on Wednesday.
Well, we'll see whether this works or not. Okay, so, because I only got the last piece in today, so I haven't tested this yet. So this would be a good test.
Just some
Yep.
Well, it might be really slow, right?
We'll see, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of doing it today is to give it a try. Okay, so I got that done. Now I need to go back here because you need that HTML document to be uploaded as a part of the um, application. So we'll upload.
And this is, I wasn't sure how to do this part either. So this is how you do it. You just create a blank HTML doc and put it up there. I was like, do I need to get a Google site or do all this crap?
I cannot remember. Oh, process. Nope. I think this will do it. Okay. Well, I mean, it's all new to me. Okay, it's
You're like, you get it at
process.html.
the candy store, man.
Yep. Okay, so we'll set the home URL to process html.html and we'll prompt for permission, find users location, find visible. Well, we can even turn on all of these things. It doesn't really matter. Um, okay.
You want follow
So do you
links?
want it to be process HTML instead of process DOM? Because the file name is process
What is
DOM.
this? Oh, process DOM. Okay.
And you don't want to follow links, right? Well, there is
There won't be
links.
anything. I mean, the document itself is actually empty. If you want to do some debugging, you can actually generate, messages, inside the script. Then it will show up as a part of the document. So that can be helpful, for debugging the document. For instance, I will show you what I mean by that. You can go back to process DOM, the HTML here, and you can set up in like a division, and then you can set the division's, text based on the processing here. So that will give you some idea of what it is seeing, yeah, that sort of stuff. Okay, so now that we got this done, we can now include maybe just a text interface, a text box, so that we can show the content after everything is parsed, the JSON representation. So we can take a quick look at that.
Does
You
the
know,
web viewer have to be visible for this?
no, it doesn't have to be. In this case, whether it's visible or not doesn't do a single thing because there's no content in it. So that's right. So if you don't want it to be visible, you can just turn it off, so it's not a visible component. And then this text box needs a lot more space because we actually have a lot of stuff to display here. So we'll change the font size to a little bit smaller and increase the height a little bit. So we'll make it filled up like 50% of the entire screen and also make it as wide as the actual entire screen. So we set the percentage here. And we want it to be multi-line, so click on that. And I think the rest is okay. So now we can go back to blocks and continue. So after the go home here, go home is asynchronous, which means it returns right away once it places the request. But because the request is going to a asset file, it doesn't take much time. But it won't do a single thing until web view string change happens. So at that point, we'll change our text box to whatever the value is that this callback is giving me. So this way we can at least get an idea of whether this approach works or not. If the approach works, then we can refine the code inside JavaScript to do more filtering, to do more processing, or whatever you need to do. So we'll set the text of the text box here to whatever the value is here. All right. So I think we're good to go. Let me get my phone here. Look at all the electronics I have.
That's wider than most of them.
Hmm?
Are HDMI cables, can they be powered
HDMI? I think there's power in HDMI.
in all? I have some cables that aren't working. Never mind.
I think they're powered because you can get a Chrome, how do you call it, a Chrome stick, and it just plugs into the HDMI plug, and it turns your computer or it turns your TV into a basically a Chrome box. Yeah, those are pretty nifty. I thought about getting one just to kind of figure out what it is and what it can do. And they're not expensive either. It's just a little stick about yay big. You plug it into the HDMI port of your TV. So now, if your TV is too old, it doesn't have like players for Hulu or a player for Netflix or whatever, and you don't want to buy a new TV, you can just buy a little Chrome stick. Now your TV has all the processing power that you need. And the Chrome stick is not that expensive either. I cannot remember, maybe $100, something like that. It's just it looks like a USB dongle, but it plugs into HDMI. Yeah. Okay, so the computer should be starting up. Oh, okay, I forgot to long press it. There we go. There we go. So now this is starting, and I will compile the code on this side. Get the API. And then we can also start the other stuff here. Oh, it's not done booting yet. That's why it's not working. There we go. All right, so resize this. Okay, and there we go. Perfect timing. Decode HTML. Okay. So now we go to Android SDK platform tools. ADB install -r process DOM. Nope. Decode. Yep, there we go. Anytime now. There we go. All right, so switch back to, oops. Did I just lose my, yep, I think I lost my screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, decode. All right. Start. Nothing happens. Well, we at least start came back, being enabled. Yes, I know that. All right, so it's not working. Let's go back and check the code in here. Okay, so process has onload equal to process. Okay, so maybe we can set some debug facility here. So we say we have a division ID equals to report. And then inside here we can set that too. So we have document get element by ID report dot and I cannot remember how to set the text of an element, so we'll look it up.
HTML.
Huh? is not HTML.
Or inner, I'm saying inner HTML now.
Well, I guess that worked too. Inner HTML equals to. Oh, okay, I can see. Um, teachers. Oh, I haven't encoded that, right? Okay, that's probably why. Okay, so we have to remember to do a JSON dot stringify. Stringify. Is that how they spell stringify? Stringify. Yep. All right. Okay, so we'll double check this code. I forgot to stringify earlier. So it was trying to send back, a non-string object, to app inventor. So that might explain why it's not displaying anything.
Could you use the web components JSON decoder to do
To
that
to
instead of
decode it,
yeah to decode it instead of
but
or
you
you're
have to
encoding? Okay.
because you're only allowed to send back a string, so you cannot send back an object. So you have to stringify first. Once you get back, then you can decode it. But once we see the string, then we're good. So I don't even need to decode it. I just need to see the string. Okay. So I think this is the update, and then we go back here, and then you guys mentioned that we can update the component that's already uploaded. We have to upload again. So I think you guys said that we can upload again without
Delete.
deleting it first. Yep.
I'll just ask you. Do you want to use the same name?
All right. So yep. Okay. So request to save blah blah blah, and we say okay. See, this is something that you can also kind of pay attention to when you design your own user interface. See what the question is asking? Do you want to remove that old file? What do you mean by okay and cancel? Yes, I do want to remove that file, or no, I do not want to remove that file. So this is one of those things where the question, the available button as responses doesn't match directly to the question. I mean, my kids do it to me a lot. It's like, do you want to blah blah blah? And they go like, or eh. Then I go like, is it a yes or no, affirmative or not? this kind of this kind of ambiguation is not uh, productive in the military. So that's why in the military, it's not okay to say okay. If the sergeant says, blah 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 blah, private, you know, the person does not respond with yeah or okay or I guess. You say affirmative or sir, yes sir. Or otherwise it'll be another 50 laps around the camp or 20 push up.
People ever died and things like that?
I would imagine so.
Boy, they be working.
But at least in the United States, it's voluntary. In Taiwan, it's not. So in Taiwan, and I suspect in South Korea, it is not either. So every male, when they get to 18 or whatever, they join the military. And I know in Taiwan, a lot of kids, quote unquote kids, commit suicide. Because they have to join the military, when it is not really their choice, and then they have to go through all these training, and there's no reason to do it either, right? I mean, to those kids, it's like, well, if mainland China really wants to invade, are we going to stop them? No. Then why are we doing this? We are wasting like X amount of years from our lives, doing something that is otherwise, other than making the nation look good, doesn't do a single thing. So they actually have a sizable suicide rate when it comes to um, you know, people joining the military and stuff. And the key part is it's not voluntary. It's not like I want to join the military. Okay. Still nothing. Okay. So we have to debug it a little bit more now. All right. So getting back to the code. So there are there are quite a few things that we have to track down here. The first one is, did it get the HTML document from the Power server, right? Okay, so we'll make sure that that happens first. So that's going to get us here. So when we're here, we will set the response content, set the text box to the response content first. So we'll duplicate this block. So I'm kind of showing you how to debug, stuff like this. And if you're really careful, you want to look at response code first, but if you're kind of greedy, then you can jump all the way to response content, thinking that the program does work. So I'm suspecting this part does work. It's probably getting the teachers, that part did not work. So, but I already have a plan to, to debug this step by step. So now we switch back to here and re-upload the updated APK. And then switch to, there we go. Decode, start. Yep, so we can definitely see the document is here. So the entire document is already here. And we can even go through this a little bit and find out, whether we can find the teacher line, the class. Yep, there we go. So we can definitely find, the class teacher is in fact here. So that's good. Okay, so we got the first step, confirmed. So the second, so we know response content is good. And we set the text box. We also set the web view string. And then we trigger go home. So at that point, the JavaScript should get control. So now the bug is probably in JavaScript itself, which is here. All right, so now we look at this code and see if we can find a problem. So HTML to process is getting the web viewer string.
That's working, right?
I suspect so.
That's what we just saw, isn't it?
No, that's something else. So to debug this portion, that's good. We can so we can now specify. So to debug this portion, this is what we can do. So we can say document. Oh, we got that already. But I'll pull this over here. Alert in HTML. What does that do?
No, I mean in JavaScript.
Oh, in the JavaScript. What does that do?
Tells us where we are. Never mind.
Okay.
I overused this.
Okay, so we can use HTML to process. So I'm setting the inner HTML of the report division to whatever we are processing. But then we have to remember to turn the web viewer component back to visible, because otherwise we won't see a single thing. So we go back here and we turn it back into visible. Okay, doesn't have to be big, all we need is just a little bit of it. All right, and then we have to remember to re-upload process DOM. Okay. And then build the APK again. And then re-upload. Nope. We can see that the HTML document is not getting the document. Okay. So, all right. So I can show you where we are stuck here. So where we are stuck is in this code. Unless my JavaScript is not doing what it's supposed to. When you specify in the HTML, do you give it HTML code? I mean, that seems.
Just give it text,
But it's HTML tag, right? You say, you use all the tags for in the inner HTML. I can look it up.
yeah, I would look it up. I'm not sure.
Or we can just alert too. What does alert do? It just gives you a dialog box.
Pop-up box to and say whatever you want it to say.
Okay. All right. So we'll alert that too.
Yeah.
Because it's also possible that I misspelled something here. Okay, we'll double check. Window.appinventor.getWebViewer string, and we'll double check all that stuff. Okay, app inventor dot get web viewer.
Set web,
Oh, it's
I think.
not no it's just view. Okay, my bad then.
There you go.
Something. Okay, fine, fine.
Set web viewer string down.
Yeah, that too. Yep. Okay, well, let's look for all the viewers. No more viewers. Okay, good. All right. So where did we go? There we go. So we have to change the HTML document again. Between HTML and JavaScript and App Inventor, you can kind of combine the best of both of them. One is really good for specifying actual processing, and then the other one makes it super easy to throw something together, that has a user interface. So blending these two, resources can be very helpful to get something up and running that can do something that's kind of cool, kind of important. Because if you're just using App Inventor, I mean, that's really not a whole lot you can do with it. All right, so we'll give it one more try. Nothing. Okay. That is kind of strange. All right, so we go back to our. And the alert did not happen either. So the script should have run. All right, so let me just double check this code. Onload is process request. Process request was spelled correctly. And then HTML to process. Okay.
Is onload supposed to be capital L?
Um, mm,
I
let's
know they're
check.
pretty sensitive about that stuff. I can't remember. No, it's not. Okay.
Yeah, that's its own example, but it has a semicolon after that.
That shouldn't matter.
That should not matter in app. I mean in JavaScript.
Okay, web view string.
Mm-hmm. And set web view string, and we have get web view string. Okay, so those were done correctly. And we know the document is there already, so we know that this thing should have some value, but we cannot alert it. Okay, well,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
well,
I'm just
let's
for us.
let's just check alert first, okay,
Yeah, I
to
don't
make
think
sure
it
that,
works because I just tried it.
oh, alert doesn't work?
I don't think not like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, inside the script, we can actually generate output, right, directly. So instead of, changing the element of something, is it
Oh no,
print or is it
it did
echo?
work that way.
It did?
It did work. Yeah, you could put anything in there, but with text, yeah.
Okay,
I tried it that way. That's correct.
okay, well, we'll try this first.
So let's see if that. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so update again. It's the right document. I'm just looking at the clock to make sure that we are uploading the correct document. If this doesn't work, we can unzip the APK file to make sure that the HTML file inside is actually updated,
Oh.
because there's a chance that the app inventor is not repacking it correctly. There's always that chance. All right, so go back here and reinstall. Okay. Nope, I'm not getting the alert.
So that means might not be updating. Because that simple alert should just work.
Did you test it inside
No.
App Inventor? Just with regular browser? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily listen to me. I'm just trying to help.
That's okay.
I don't necessarily know what I'm doing.
Okay. So maybe we'll use some more basic stuff like print or echo. Does it have one or the other? Okay. JavaScript can display data in window.alert, not just alert. So it's window.alert. Or you can use document.write. Okay. So we got that. All right. So it's window.alert, and then we can also use a document.write, and then we can specify HTML to process. Okay. Double check, make sure, right? So document.write, okay, we got that. And then window.alert, and I think we got that too. Okay. Ah, okay, click on the wrong link. Get back. back to here, re-upload. And then we download the APK. Did you do window.alert or just alert?
Just alert. Well, I was in a window, so maybe I didn't need it.
Hmm. Well, the other thing that I could have done wrong is I did not specify the home URL correctly. So if I don't specify any path, does it automatically assume it is? Yeah, so I think that might be one of the issues. We'll see. If this doesn't work, we'll check that. Upload first. I think it's probably that, I did not specify the path of the URL correctly. Yep, okay, it's not working. All right, so get back to the web viewer component. Look up its own help. And then we look up how to specify the home URL.
Because for
Hmm?
most of the files, you need to do the double slash t or double slash o.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that too. You mean the file colon slash slash? Or something that begins with slash slash, right? I think anything that begins with slash slash is referring to the asset resource. So we'll check that. Okay. I know we did one program before that made use of a local file. So I'm gonna go back and look at that program first. Now, which one would that be? JavaScript one? Sounds about right. And this one has JavaScript 1. And then we look at the web component.
You got a web viewer up there?
Hmm?
You got a web viewer in there? See where how you set the web viewer to highlighted.
Yep.
File.
It's file and then /Android underscore asset. Okay, so that may be it. Okay. So file colon // Android underscore asset slash. Did I get it right? Yep. Looks right. Okay, that's probably it. All right. right. Hmm. No cigar. Hmm.
Maybe we should just try putting a file with no JavaScript and make sure that it works.
Well, or we can do this. I'm just going to double check and make sure that the file is packed correctly. Okay. There we go. Okay, so it did pack it correctly. Um, Home URL is specified to be file dot colon slash 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 android underscore asset and then process dom dot html.
Is there any more in that
Hmm?
path? Is there any more in that path that might be needed?
More.
The pathway? Is there more to the path? Like, are we missing something in the path? Kind of curious.
Um, you mean
Like
the
on the previous one, we saw file slash colon slash slash android asset slash.
well,
Is there more that we missed?
we'll double check. This is from the previous one. So it has file colon slash 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 android underscore asset and then slash and then the file that it needs to refer to. And the file name is matching this file name here. But yes, it is a good idea to double check and make sure that we can actually access the resource first. So that means we'll just put some content here. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Yep, it's definitely not loading the resource itself. What am I missing? I don't think it's a go home issue. Hmm. Follow links, home URL, ignore SSS error. Okay, that should not have anything to do with it. Prompt for permission. I don't think that's the issue. Well, let's look up how to access Android underscore asset. Yep. So that's how we specify to the production path, and we are using the production model. So it's file colon and then triple slash Android underscore asset and then the file name. Hmm. And this is the component. Follow links, height. Well, I mean, if we suspect anything here, we can always, I don't think this has anything to do with it, but we'll double check, make sure. Go back to blocks. We know this block is working because it is setting the text of the text box correctly. So the last one is just go home, loads the home URL page. This happens automatically when the home URL is changed. Well, automatically when it's changed, but you can always, re-trigger that to happen. We also know
Oh, I
that,
see what you're saying.
yeah, but we also know that, even when the document was first loaded, it should display the content already. So something in the file either is not working. Oh, you know what? Okay, okay. Here's a suspicion. If the source file has a problem, it's not going to display the content correctly. So I will bet you that it has a error. There's an error in the script that prevents it from finishing. So it didn't finish loading at all. So the hey part did not work either. Onload equals process request. We'll put a semicolon here. I don't think that matters. Um, because we can. Oh, I know why. The the P is in the wrong place. It's inside the script, so it's definitely at the wrong place. Okay, so that should be better. But the alert is definitely not working. Maybe it doesn't work inside the web viewer, inside the web view. All right, so we'll give it one more try. Okay. Hey. All right. Yep. Okay. So we got the content in the thing, but we are not getting the text updated here. Okay. So we now know that the document was loaded correctly, but it did not process correctly. So it has to do with the code. We know that we got to hey. We know we got to the right HTML to process. So we got all of that stuff done. The report is gone, so that line
Oh,
really
so
should not be
I
there.
think get element by ID. I think you need a hash. And it's stupid because I think you still need to put the hash, even though it's a get element by ID.
Yeah, but that part is the report is not there anymore. So we really don't have that anymore.
Okay.
So we have to kind of make another alert here.
You need a dot for teacher, maybe, for
Window,
get element by class. Pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
you mean here?
Yeah, it's goofy. Let me see. Like
Well,
even though
let's
it's
see.
by class, you would think you could just put the name of the class.
Okay, so we'll just make an alert before we, because I don't think we got to here. Because if we did get to here, then the text box should have changed. So we get back to, we are already in Designer. Okay. If that doesn't work, we can.
Oh, it's get element by class name, I think. It get element by class is jQuery, I think.
Oh, okay.
Try that. I'm trying to verify if that's it. Yeah, I think it's class name.
Class name, huh?
Yeah. jQuery is get element by class.
Okay. By
That should be
class name, and
there you
then
go.
name has to be uppercase as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's all confusing with that stuff.
Yeah, the problem is it doesn't I cannot see the error message, that it generates from running this code
Yeah.
because I cannot access the log, the console log from here. Okay. So
Hopefully that works.
we'll see. We got enough time for one more run. Let's make it count. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Still nothing. It's not updating this. So I think I'm still having some coding error inside the JavaScript. Well, it's probably for another day. All right, so I'm going to spend some time to try to figure this one out. The difficulty is, it's not easy to debug it. I suppose I can just, kind of force feed it a particular document just to check out the process, whether it works or not using a regular browser where I have access to the console and, other debugging um, stuff. Because it couldn't even get to the alert, it could not even get here. So whatever the error was, happened earlier. Could not make a DOM parser. It could be as early as that. So the other thing I can
So
do,
you said it's now. You said it's not going to. It's not the even that alert isn't happening. So we can't even like have it alert the variables to see what those look like, huh?
we can move the alert earlier, right?
But
Or
it's
we
being
can,
processed, right?
hmm?
Oh, it's on load. Never
Yeah.
mind.
So we can use an alert here to.
Yeah. So try doing alert teachers
Well, let's
just to
check.
see what teachers, because teachers is weird. JSON.stringify.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest one. Why don't we alert all those? Make sure that parser, DOM, and teachers actually are something. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't even know whether we got here or not, because I think if the onload
Yeah,
is not working, then we never got
then you
here.
not got there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can. I mean, we can. Okay. So let's do it this way. So we'll say, and then This is after parsing. Okay, and then this is stringifying, so we'll okay. So one more shot.
You
Um,
were asking me what alert is good for. This is how
well,
I live
because
my
I didn't
life.
know. There's not a whole lot of way to debug it, I suppose.
No, that's why I use alerts way too much. Alerts, it gets me through shit. Gets me through my day.
Well, on the regular browser, you can use console log.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Recently I switched to that. But for a while I wasn't doing that.
The really cool thing is once you know JavaScript, you can also you would also know how to use Google Script. And Google Script is very useful because you can use it to specify custom stuff that you can do in Google Documents, Google Spreadsheet, and all kinds of other stuff. So it's actually pretty useful to know how to use JavaScript. Okay. All right. So let's see how far we can get this time. Okay. After parsing. Okay. So we are now in process request. So that's good. After parser is created, after parsing, and then nothing after that. Okay. So that means we went as far as here. But when we try to use teachers and then JSON.stringify, that did not work. So it may not work because of we could not get to get element by class name, or it could be the stringify that is not working. So I have to break it up and then put inserting alerts in between, to figure out which step is not working.
That's what I was saying. Like I would alert after parsing, put alert on just to see what that looks like.
Would it display the actual
It would display
object?
what the yeah.
Okay.
It would display all of it, and then we can see that what it looks like that JSON is trying to stringify. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
Since we know it got that far, right?
Yep. I know the next class is not coming here, so if you guys don't mind,
I want to see
spending a
this
little bit more
work.
time,
And you're still recording, right?
I'm still recording. This is how I learn a new programming technique or new programming language. I could never read a book from
Yeah.
cover to cover. I mean, I would try, and then on page 5, I'll be like,
That's what these are for.
I need a project, to give me a reason.
Chocolate covered coffee beans.
Oh,
Espresso
Espresso beans.
beans.
Yeah,
Yep.
they help you get past page 5.
You can get to page 7. No, but if I have a project like this to work on, I can do it all night, all day.
I can
Yep.
do what my wife does at the essentially.
Yeah, well, I was kind of referring to before I got married too. And kids, right? Dad, who's gonna drive me to school today?
Walk.
oh, like we used to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember either one of my parents being at home when we had to go to school. But I do
I don't
remember
remember them
walking.
being home before or after.
Huh?
They weren't home ever, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Now I'm afraid to get reported by my neighbors if a kid walks in the street alone.
Well,
Depends on how old your kids are.
no, I was
2 is not
in
old enough?
elementary school. Walking to and from school. But
Oh.
then I feared my parents, so I knew I had to go directly home from school or else.
Yeah, I'm not sure my kids fear me. They might actually. They fear me more than their mother. My wife is like, about my son, we're like, dude, he's gonna need like, a stiff-handed hammer
Okay, well, let's see what this one's gonna say. Yep, it just says it's an HTML document. Okay, so we do get a document.
Yeah.
It's the next call that failed. So that
And it
means,
might be in the. Well, you're still trying to parse DOM, right?
well,
DOM, you're
it could be
getting
one or
Python.
the other. I don't think stringify can fail, but that's possible. So we'll break it up, right? We'll break up into um, teacher's object. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Then put an alert.
Mm-hmm. Teacher's obj, and then we stringify teachers obj, and then we alert again with teachers.
It's get elements by class name. I just noticed that.
Get elements.
Yeah, that's the other thing they go back and forth on in JavaScript. Element, singular and plural. It's all over the place.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, all right.
I've made that mistake so many times. Like, I'm like, come, why isn't this working?
Well, I apologize. I did not see that either. So,
Me neither.
Because some of them are singular and some of them aren't. Like, it's just there's no rhyme or reason for it. I mean, I guess they're trying to be grammatically correct, but it's a programming language. I'd rather it be consistent than
yep.
grammatically
Once you
correct.
choose one, just stick with it,
Stick
right?
with it, right? Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yep. And that's why in some programming languages, if there are misspelled words, because the first programmer who put in that keyword misspelled it, and then they
Oh,
just kept
really?
it. Yeah, but then they just
Well,
kept
that's a
it.
good idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
remember,
they just kept it like all these years. That's the way you do it.
it's gonna be funny
IBM
if that
used
was
to
the
do
problem.
that.
Huh?
IBM,
IBM?
yes.
I don't think IBM would.
Oh, fingers crossed.
And toes. Cross your toes.
That's not hard.
That's really hard for us. Okay. Okay, this one does not really matter that much. Okay, that's good. That's good.
After stringify.
Yep, we got past it. All right. Mhm. Mhm. Yay! Not quite what I expected, but
At least something's working though.
it got passed back. Yep. Yep.
Oh, it
So
did, yeah.
so yeah.
I didn't pass back teachers though.
That's teachers. There were four teachers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were four teachers, and
But I thought
I don't know why it's
why isn't it
just
passing back
empty.
what's in it?
There were five. There were five teachers, I think.
Yeah.
But it
But wouldn't
started
it,
with
why isn't
zero,
it
so
supposed
it
to be
is
passing
showing
back
five.
what the teachers' names were or something?
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yep. So there were five.
So it was just basically all that over a freaking misspelling essentially is what we just
A
did.
bunch, not just one. A
Yeah, we had
bunch of
multiple misspellings
misspellings.
all
Yes.
over misspelling
It's
again.
all because Tech insisted to use a VI instead of some other tools that can automatically detect and go like, "You meant this, right?"
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
All
have
right.
one for JavaScript. I need to get one. I have PyCharm, but
Yeah, for
that's good.
JavaScript, there are quite a few. Let's see. Atom, ATOM is one.
Mm.
It's an open source text editor, but I think it knows JavaScript, so that's one to look into. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the recorder, and thank you for bearing with me to get this done. But with this out of the way, I mean, with this done, I think we can